Hello, Louisiana FFA. I'm Trevor Touchet, your state vice president representing Area 3. And this morning, I have a very special guest with me, the National FFA Advisor, Dr. James Woodard. How are we doing, Dr. Woodard?
We're doing very good, Trevor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this morning with us. I know it's very hectic right now with everyone being in quarantine, so I'm glad that you got time to go to your office and be able to do this interview with me. Very appreciative of that.
It is absolutely my honor and pleasure, Trevor.
So just start off, like, how's your quarantine going? I know it's a very hectic time right now, so I just want to know how you're doing, check up on you.
Our governor has issued a stay at home until April 13th, except for essential functions and businesses. Education is considered essential, so we are trying to stay operational with remote learning. I am finishing my career as a school superintendent of a 3,000 student school district. And so until June, which school has been called off for the remainder of the year, probably not a graduation, but maybe some type of special type of graduation to honor our seniors. But up in that time, we're just doing remote learning and trying to, as I tell the staff, we're working differently than normal.
Very good. That sounds amazing. To start us off, we'd like to dig a little deeper into your background. So if you just tell us how you got into agriculture education and how you got into education itself.
Absolutely. I have a very extensive background in agriculture and ag education. I grew up in a rural farming town in South Georgia. Worked as a farm laborer in tobacco fields, and up until about the 9th grade, my only objective was basically to graduate from high school and work as a farm laborer. Neither of my parents graduated from high school. Mom and dad couldn't read or write, but they were really focused on me, number one, having a very strong work ethic, and number two, making sure that I had a good educational background. Their vision for an education was basically a high school diploma. It did not involve any post-secondary aspirations. That's where I really put together the difference between a vision and a mission. And I can share some of these pictures with you. My mom had a very clear vision that she wanted to see me walk across the stage and receive my high school diploma. And that's something she could put out there 18 years, 17 years in advance. And she also had a very strong mission mind of making sure that I was prepared every day to go to school and learn, and the teachers teach. Dad was very determined that I was going to have a strong work ethic. And both of those things together were very powerful in setting me up for success. But I had some adversities. We grew up in poverty. I was a very poor reader. I didn't have a model for higher education, and I had some speech challenges. So I had a lot of things that I'm proud of that I had to work through and overcome. But in 7th grade, I became a member of the FFA, and I wanted to wear that blue jacket. Mm-hmm. I had 2 uncles who was in FFA, and they just looked sharp. They were role models for other kids, and I wanted that same type of impression upon me as I was wearing that blue corduroy jacket. I had a great 7th grade teacher. His name was Mr. Jerry Lamon. He actually let me ride in the front seat of a pickup truck for the very first time. Up until that point, I always had to ride in the back. But he left, and then in the 10th grade, I had an ag teacher named Mike Tanner. He was a new ag teacher. Didn't grow up in an ag program. Grew up in Tampa, Florida. He just took whatever he knew from the studies at the University of Florida and came in to be our FFA advisor. One day I was in the shop and was trying to do some welding, and there was a little situation where I didn't want to stop and clean up like he wanted me to. And he let me know I needed to stop and clean up, and I sort of threw everything down, a little bit rebellious in the 10th grade, and walked out the classroom, only to find the next day when he walked back was the first time that I had somebody other than my parents provide some encouragement. And that was when he asked me to run as an FFA officer. and I did, and became reporter. And that year at the FFA banquet, I didn't receive any accolades, no awards, no plaques, no certificates. But I made a promise to him that night that he would get tired of hearing my name the next year. And an award ceremony where I received our Alumni of the Year several years ago, he made that statement that I forgot I said it, but he reminded me that I said it, and he said he did get tired of calling my name up, because I was all in, and I was all in. And so by the end of the 10th grade year, I had determined that I wanted to be an ag teacher, and that's how I created my life mission. Was I wanted to make the difference in the life of a kid, student, to the same degree that my ag teacher made in my life. From there, I went to Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, a junior college in South Georgia, received my associate's degree in agriculture, went on to the University of Georgia where I received my bachelor's degree, and became an ag teacher in 1987, and through a series of other job opportunities, have now landed here as the National FFA Advisor. Maybe a little bit more than you're looking for, Trevor, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That was perfect. Don't leave anything out of your story. It's perfect. That was perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Like you talked about, you said family got you an FFA. Same thing for me. My sister was a big FFA member, and she really got me sparked up to want to join, because I was big in sports growing up. So I didn't think I would be anywhere near state office material until my sister just got me the confidence I needed to run up and join.
Well, unfortunately, my agriculture teacher in the 10th grade got there a little too late to really position me to run for a state office. And I've often asked myself the question, what if? What would be different if I had run and not got elected? Or what would be different if I had run and been elected? You know, but that's not part of my story, and I just made a commitment that I'd never ask the question to myself, what if? I'd always try, and I know that I would know the answer to the what ifs.
That's something great to live by. Never go by what if. Always try your hardest to do anything. Go take over any obstacle in life. I like that. So the next question I have for you is, what made you want to apply for the position of National FFA Advisor?
Well, there's a story there, Trevor.
Okay.
I was contemplating retirement from my education career. I've been in education 33 years as an ag teacher, state FFA advisor, state career tech director, a local career tech director, principal of a career academy, and now superintendent of schools. And I'll just say it like it is. I prayed for a billboard sign. I needed some clarity in what it would take for me to make the decision to retire or not retire. And that answer came in the form of a phone call that I ignored because it was a phone call from Mr. Buddy Daimler, National Executive Secretary, and he was calling me to recruit me. Asked me to put my application in. Call from Utah. I really thought it was a telemarketer. And so I let it lay for a few days and finally called him back on the morning of September 15th or answered the voicemail, and it was him. He and I connected that day, and he told me that the national advisor position was open and that it was not a requirement to move to Washington, D.C., which I was not interested in doing, and laid out the difference of the position and the way it is laid out now versus the way it was with Dr. Steve Brown. And so I asked my wife, we care for a 94-year-old and a 92-year-old in our home, and asked my wife, big responsibility. And she said, James, this gives you the opportunity to get back to the why you got into education to begin with. And that's what I needed to hear. And so I applied on September 16th and then was announced in November as the National FFA Advisor. So it wasn't something that I was aspiring to be, but it was another one of those situations that I wasn't going to ask myself after the fact, what if? What if I had not applied? What if I had applied and not got chosen? It was going to be, I would know the answer to this question. And so never would have dreamed that I would have been the National FFA Advisor, because I really thought that position would always be stationed in Washington, D.C., and I had no desire to move my family to Washington, D.C. So it wasn't on the radar, but an answer to a prayer in a big way as to giving me the opportunity to retire from my primary education career and move into this position.
How are you enjoying this position as National FFA Advisor so far?
Well, it's been fairly limiting so far. I'm still trying to finish my school system here. I'm under contract till the end of June. We've had some board meetings face-to-face, and more recently, because of the coronavirus, we've been doing more Zoom-type meetings, and really appreciate Mr. Mark Peschel and the leadership staff there at National FFA and all that they've had to go through and decisions to be made. But staying in contact with the National Board of Directors. We've got a conference call next Tuesday, and then we'll meet again, most likely in a Zoom environment in early May.
So I'm not sure if many people know this, but what exactly is your role as the National FFA Advisor?
It's several different aspects. I actually pulled up a document to help me walk through that. Number one, there's a big oversight and direction piece of this position. I will serve as the chairman of the board of directors for the National FFA. I'll serve on the National FFA Board of Trustees and the Joint Governance Committee that serves that works with the Foundation FFA. I'll be involved in helping develop the organizational strategic plan. I'll sign charters for state associations and local associations. There'll also be a lot of trainings and governance pieces. I'll be an advocate for National FFA, so I anticipate that I had several state FFA conventions planned to attend. I think 6. I think all of those have been canceled at this point or postponed except for one. So my travel plans have changed a lot, and so I'm now working with many state FFA associations to provide a video/virtual type greeting to their state conventions based on how they do it. National FFA Convention Expo, being part of the messaging part there, but also the oversight and direction of that, and the convention and the expo. And then I'll also play a role with the National Council for Ag Education and providing input to the strategy and initiatives that we would develop on a national basis with the National Council.
Very interesting, very interesting. So
I think a lot of the details, because it is a lot different than the way Dr. Brown was positioned through the U.S. Department of Education. I think we're still working through some of the what's, whens, and wheres that this position will take place. It's not a full-time job. It actually doesn't pay any salary. So it's for me, it's a service opportunity to give back to a great organization that made a big impact on my life.
Yes, sir. So as the new National FFA Advisor, what are your plans for the future of National FFA?
I was asked that question in my interview, and quite frankly, I've had somewhat of a disconnect with ag education. I left my position as state FFA advisor in 2005, and I primarily did that to slow down and be a better daddy to my kids. We showed a lot of livestock, sheep and cattle. Both of my kids were very accomplished in the show ring, and my son graduated last year. So slowing down a little bit, taking time to be the daddy I needed to be, but stayed involved in FFA through from a parental standpoint. But sort of had some disconnect. So a lot of the players have changed, a lot of the people have changed. So what I committed to in the interview process was that I would take some time. I would spend some of my time sharing my personal story. I'd share my principles and my philosophies that I stand by. I would spend some time learning the people, learning the programs, learning the practices that we have, and then I would start, learning the processes and procedures, and then I'd begin evaluating the opportunities that we would have for conversation. So one of the first things we had attempted to do with the National Council was we had planned a strategic planning initiative next week with the National Council, and we were going to pull together some think tank type leaders from across the nation and begin thinking about what the future holds for ag education and how that pertains to FFA. That's put on the back burner a little bit because of this COVID-19. We are having a meeting next week, but we'll be looking at how we strategize and position. I know, that for me, number one is expanding the number of opportunities for young people to be engaged in FFA and ag education. We did that when I was state FFA advisor by really implementing and pushing through the middle school ag education programs. And that has really expanded the opportunity for us to deliver ag education at a different level. More recently, we've had a push to deliver some elementary ag education. And so, opening up, maybe building a bigger pipeline for the number of students to engage in ag education or become a member. And then we've got to figure out how to engage those members at a higher degree, whether it's a chapter of a program of 100 that only has 30 members participating, or a larger chapter that maybe has a couple hundred participating. How do we make sure those students are more engaged in leadership and career development type activities?
Yes, sir. So I have one last question for you.
Sure.
What do you believe are some challenges facing agriculture education in this decade? And what are some helpful tips do you have for students that are wanting to pursue a career in agriculture education?
Well, Trevor, from challenges, and I have a saying or a basic principle that I don't feel like we have any challenges or issues or problems. We have opportunities for conversations. Mm-hmm. So what are some of those opportunities for conversations? I think very basic, if we're going to increase the pipeline of opportunities for students to be even a member of or enrolled in ag education, we definitely have to think about the teacher supply side. And with the teacher supply side, we also have to think about the quality indicators of programs. Very proud of the fact that we led some initiatives early in my career in developing some quality standards for programs. Some very basic, what does a good ag education program look like? Not a great one, but just what are some basic quality indicators? I'm sure from state to state that's going to look differently. I think from program to program within a state it could look differently. But there are some very basic things that we need to think about and have those conversations about increasing the supply of teachers, but also improving the quality of the programs nationwide. I think beyond that, it's in terms of education, there's has been a big push on the academic side through No Child Left Behind and other initiatives since then. But helping local systems understand the value that an ag education program can bring to the whole student. I feel like one of the initiatives I'll put in front of me is making sure that I'm a part of the National Association of School Superintendents and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, so that I can be a voice and an advocate for ag education at the national level with those groups and help them understand the value that local ag education brings to the students, to the school, and to the community. So what would I share with a young person? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
the second question?
Yes, sir. What are some helpful tips they have for like students that are wanting to pursue a career in agriculture education?
Well, that's interesting you say that, because my daughter is a first-year agriculture teacher.
Oh.
And I've had the opportunity to encourage her a little bit. Number one, as a young ag teacher, I think you really need to slow down and build a very good base of support. One of the flaws that I see that happens with young ag teachers is they want to jump in and do everything real quick. And a lot of times they lose momentum. A lot of times they get burned out. I really encourage young folks to just slow down. Pick 3 or 4 activities, build your ag education program, build some FFA activities that are associated with your ag education program, and just slow down and build a slow trajectory to being successful. Don't think you got to do it like this. I did it. I tried to do it like this, and got discouraged. Went through a burnout period, and I think it's very important that you just slowly build a good trajectory for the future, and that you build your program, the ag education program, classroom instruction, and connect your FFA piece, connect your FFA chapter with that. I think probably the most important thing I could tell young ag teachers or young folks aspiring to be an ag teacher is to keep a check on your balance. Everything from the beginning of your spiritual balance to your physical, to your emotional, to your mental, to your work, to your family. Keep all those things in a good balance. We have the tendency for these things to go up and down and be more of a roller coaster type ride. I think from my reflection from this stay at home, the sheltering environment, is I've been able to really just enjoy watching some movies with my kids and just cooking. I mean, if you look at my Facebook post, we're on spring break this week, but I'm putting whatever I cook every night, I'm putting on Facebook just to remind myself, that there's some very simple things in life that we can partake in, and it doesn't have to be running everywhere. I think the inspiration I found in even learning how to do Zoom myself gives me an opportunity to maybe not travel everywhere every time I need to meet with somebody, but just like we're doing here today, a very very good moment for us to share and be able to share stories with a lot of FFA members across the nation without actually leaving the family. So just keeping all those things in balance and figuring out what that balance feels like, and not thinking that you have to be in balance every day, but in the big picture of a week or a month or a year, you're reflecting. And the biggest thing for me in life is to sit back and reflect. I haven't always been good at it, but for us to reflect on where we are and where we need to be. And so those are the 3 things that I would tell young ag teachers. Don't think that you got to do it all your first year. Keep yourself in somewhat of a balance, and then do a lot of reflecting.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that.